AEW versus Impact Wrestling, 15 dream matches that I personally would love to see, and hopefully you would as well. Welcome to SCW here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. The whole wrestling community is dreaming after AEW Winter is coming this week. Kenny Omega winning the AEW Championship via Don Callis, the executive producer of Impact Wrestling, and then after that they went through the back, escaped the building, and Don Callis said that Kenny Omega will explain all with Don Callis this coming Tuesday on Impact Wrestling. It looks like the companies are going to be working together, and of course that's got many in the wrestling community dreaming of potential invasions, matches, all sorts going on. So without further ado, I've compiled 15 matches here for you today. Going to go through them one by one, give you my opinion of what I think certainly most would be considered dream matches. There are a few that I just personally would like to see. Those will probably have a bit more explanation. Hopefully by the end of this video you will agree with me that these would be great matches that are must see and would want to see if possible in the future, whether it be on AEW, Impact, or perhaps one kind of super show going forward. We'll have to wait and see. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. And the first one I'm going to put for you right now is Jon Moxley against Sami Callihan. Now, I think that this certainly has got dream match written all over it. Both of them are used to a hardcore element with their wrestling. Jon Moxley has been booked so well as that babyface who's just willing to kick ass all year this year. Sami Callihan can play the perfect heel in Impact Wrestling. We've seen him with the likes of OVE and, of course, now with Ken Shamrock by his side. Always happy to use a baseball bat. Jon Moxley likes an unsanctioned match. And Jon Moxley was taken out just a couple of weeks ago on AEW, and of course that is now going into wildfire of potential suspects of who it could be. The idea now as well of AEW versus Impact means could it be someone from the Impact roster who took out Jon Moxley? So for me, my dream candidate would be Sami Callihan. These two could be in a hardcore environment. I think it would be brutal, it would be bloody. Both of them would have kick-ass promos as well. I just think that this would be absolutely awesome. A match I personally would really love to see. So from AEW, Jon Moxley, and from Impact Wrestling, Sami Callihan. Next, and I'll always give the AEW guys first and the Impact guys second. And Kenny Omega is going to be my choice here for AEW. And of course, he is always seen as Mr. Dependable when it comes to AEW. Someone always gives out a good match. Someone you always can know when it comes to that show, you can rely on Kenny Omega. And for Impact Wrestling, a guy you can always depend on for a good match and always has a solid hand is one Eddie Edwards. So that's going to be my second match for you here, dream match. And arguably you would say Kenny Omega, of course he is the AEW guy, but after this week he's going to be going on Impact Wrestling. And of course that throws a storyline in itself if they were going to do an invasion or a rivalry, company warfare. What if Kenny Omega was to defect a part of the storyline to Impact Wrestling? There's so many different ways it could go, but for the purposes of this video, I'm keeping him on the AEW side. And I do think that these two would have a great match. Omega versus Edwards for me, like I say, you know it's going to be a good match. And both of these guys, a solid hand. For me, I think that this is a must-see encounter. Match 3 is going to be none other than Chris Jericho taking on Moose. Now, hear me out on this one. Moose sees himself as Mr. Impact Wrestling. It's on his Twitter handle. Chris Jericho, if you asked him, is Mr. AEW. Of course, he was the first AEW champion as well. These two have very loud wardrobes. I tell you, the jackets these guys wear come into the ring and all sorts. This could be entertaining as hell. And one other little side note as well, where we have these little hints. Everyone talks about Don Callis being the placeholder of what's put this together with Kenny Omega this week. Chris Jericho's name was actually brought up on Impact Wrestling just a few short weeks ago. Now, during Moose's rivalry with EC3, he lost his championship and had to revive and try and get the championship back, something Chris Jericho has gone through in the past. Moose actually contacted Chris Jericho. Not that we heard anything from Chris Jericho, but in storyline terms, contacted Jericho on the phone. So to see these two actually then go against each other, I think this could be hell entertaining. I would love to see Jericho against Moose. The match itself, I think more be for the build than the encounter itself, but I do think that these two would be thoroughly entertaining. Like I say, they've got such loud personalities, and the way that they actually put it together on our screens each and every week, I think that this would be a lot of fun. So Chris Jericho versus Moose would be my third choice. Let's switch things up for the meantime, shall we? Let's go to the women's division, because I'm sure a lot of people, when they hear dream matches, they think of the women's division. They probably think of the tag team division. So let's go to those two divisions next before we go back to the singles divisions towards the end. And we'll start with the women's. Let's go champion versus champion. Hikaru Shida of AEW against Deonna Purrazzo from Impact Wrestling. Champion versus champion. Need I say more? I think a lot of people would look at this and say, this is a mouth-watering clash. Shida has had an incredible 2020. She's literally made herself a household name in AEW. Deonna Purrazzo, since joining Impact, she's stolen the show. She has led the division, a two-time Knockouts champion already, and arguably the best technical wrestler in the world against the strong style of Hikaru Shida. I think it's a dream match. It's a match I most want to see, probably in the top two matches of this entire list for me. So I really want to see this one, and I'm hoping you guys will agree with me in the comments below. Next match, we're going to go with Thunder Rosa, who technically is NWA, but she spends most of her time wrestling these days in AEW and is seemingly a part of the AEW women's division for the meantime anyway, against Su Yung here. Now, not only will this be a great match in my opinion, I really believe that these two would have a fantastic build to the match as well. Su Yung, the Undead Bride, honestly such a motivating gimmick. It's almost Undertaker-esque of the women's division, and that's probably overplaying it slightly to people that are not so familiar with her work, but let me just say, it's a nice throwback to like that mid-90s with her kind of gimmick. The way that it's portrayed in Impact, it is so cool to watch Su Yung in action. Thunder Rosa has had an incredible year as well, and of course she's also kind of got that sort of half-painted face with the skull there, definitely that dark side with Thunder Rosa. I think that these two would have a show-stealing encounter. I do believe that this does come under the dream match category. Next, we're going to look as well with two more from the darker side there. Abaddon against Rosemary. Rosemary arguably is that demon character, the almost original of the modern era type of demon characters anyway, against the modern day version of Abaddon, who's just really taken it up a level. I mean, she's literally scary as hell to look at when you see her come through the curtain. I think that these two, it would be a great build. Possibly would even suit the cinematic match even when it comes along, perhaps in the undead realm. Certainly you could look at the casket match territory. There's lots of things you could do with Abaddon and Rosemary. I think certainly would be a lot of fun. But it's not all gimmicks as well. Sometimes you just want to see great straight-up wrestling. And of course, we mentioned Shida and Deonna Purrazzo earlier. How about Dr. Britt Baker against Jordan Grace? I don't know, just looking at that, I think that would be an epic match between those two. So that's one I would really like to see. And I think that certainly Jordan Grace was one that I think that AEW wanted previously, but of course opted for Impact Wrestling. This would be a great opportunity to see that match with Grace and Baker, which certainly would be one definitely on my tick list, as you can see on this list. Let's go to the tag team division then, shall we? And of course, there's some dream matches there, and FTR did not waste any time throwing out the teams they wanted to face, and I certainly want to see those matches as well. FTR against the Motor City Machine Guns, and of course, FTR versus the North. Now, Motor City Machine Guns, they have been there, they've done it, they're one of almost the OGs of tag team wrestling in the modern day. FTR probably the best of today, so it would almost be like the past versus the present. And of course, with the North, I mean, like FTR, very innovative, very creative with the tag team offense. The North also in the PWI's top 10 tag teams of 2020, and arguably the best tag team in Impact Wrestling. Certainly, in my opinion, they are right now against the best tag team of AEW. I certainly consider this to be probably arguably one of the biggest dream matches of all. But that's not to say that the North would have just one dream match on this list. Let's talk about them against the Young Bucks, because of course that is another match that we would really love to see. And of course was teased earlier this year. There was going to be the TNA one night only show, which had to be unfortunately pulled due to the pandemic. The Young Bucks seemed keen at that point on a match with the North. I certainly wanted to see that then. I still want to see it now. I think it's certainly worthy of this list, so I'm going to add the Young Bucks against the North. One more dream match I'll give you now from the tag team ranks. How about the tag team champions of AEW against the tag team champions of Impact Wrestling? That's right, I'm talking the Young Bucks once again, now against the Good Brothers of Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows. Both have history as well with the Bullet Club as well, so there's lots of things that could come into play with the rivalry. I certainly think that this would be a dream match. It's certainly one I would really want to see, and one as well that apparently Doc Gallows has even teased on Twitter himself. So let's definitely put this one down there as one of the dream matches that I must see, the Young Bucks against the Good Brothers. Back to the singles divisions then, and let's look to some other matches that I think certainly would be in candidates. And how about the Future versus the Future? How about MJF against Ace Austin? Everyone says that MJF, a top 24-year-old prodigy, will be leading the company for years to come, will be a multi-time world champion, and will arguably be the face of wrestling going forward. Well, if you look at Ace Austin on the other side, many in Impact Wrestling compare him to be the brand new AJ Styles. The likes of Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez saying that this certainly is the cream of the crop. The ace in the deck, if you want, is Ace Austin when you look at the Impact roster. And I do think that these two, it's a match that you could say right now, is it the dream match now? Or is it something that in 5-10 years' time we're going to turn and say that is the dream match then? Certainly, I think it could be. So that's why I've added this match on this list. One other match that I think would be hard-hitting and fun to see, especially with their clash of styles, Hangman Adam Page against Eric Young. I think it just would be a lot of fun. Eric Young is a great psychotic wrestler, and I think that he's always great with his character work, and I think him and Hangman Page would put an exceptional match with each other, so I wanted to throw that one on there in the singles ranks. Certainly would almost arguably be a great opener to a card if you were ever to have AEW against Impact, so that's a match there I certainly would throw on. Let's have the big men against the big men next. And Lance Archer versus Madman Fulton. I need to say more, really. It's two big guys in wrestling that larger-than-life feel. Certainly, as fans, we get in awe of seeing matches like that. Lance Archer, arguably perhaps a bit more polished of the two athletes at this stage in looking at both of their careers. But certainly, I think with an AEW Impact standpoint, this would go into dream match territory when you see in the land of the big men. Last couple of matches that I'm going to throw to you right now. More matches that I just want to see, more than anything, but I will explain my reasons for it. Purely, I just want to see it. Sammy Guevara against Rich Swann. Rich Swann, arguably right now, is one of the top talents in Impact Wrestling. In fact, he's their world champion. Sammy Guevara, again, one of those for the future. But it just, I think, for two lightweights, I think that these two would go, and I think they would put on an incredible match. So, some may say this isn't a dream match, but certainly for me, I think it's a dream match. It's certainly one that I would really like to see if I was putting a card together. I think that these two would have great chemistry, and like I say, I think it would be a 5-star match. Last but not least, certainly one that will raise a few eyebrows, this one, but listen to me. Bear with me for a second. Orange Cassidy against Johnny Swinger. Now, of course, when you hear this, you go, well, dream match. Why would this be a dream match? They're not, either of them are not top of the companies. Why would this go in this for you? I'm going to give you a little story. You've got the throwback, the 80s gimmick of Johnny Swinger, a great comedy character in Impact Wrestling, against the comedy expertise, the can't be bothered Orange Cassidy, a man with his hands in his pockets. The fact that Johnny Swinger would think that someone like Cassidy should be carrying his bags. I think for comedy, it would be gold. The idea that, Johnny Swinger wants to do the dirty tricks, the old sort of classic 80s cheating maneuvers, and then actually being attacked and probably getting hurt by Orange Cassidy with his weak super kick and, kicks to the legs. I just think it would be entertaining. I think it would be fun, and we like to see fun in the world of wrestling. So for me, this match, although it's probably a little bit unorthodox, will be finishing off my AEW versus Impact Wrestling 15 dream matches. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What matches would you like to see if we had AEW versus Impact Wrestling? Do some of these matches take your fancy? Do you have some that you have in mind that you'd want to see instead? Let me know in the comments section right now. Of course, AEW Winter is coming. The review is available for you on the channel right now, so go and check that out. The Q&A will be coming on Sunday. Of course, as always, Ask SCW. Leave that hashtag with the Ask SCW. Drop a comment here in the comments section, and I'll include you and give you a shout out in the video as well as answering your question. If you're into NXT, some of you are. Of course, those predictions are up right now for the War Games Takeover, and the review will be coming to the channel on Monday. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Take care. Have yourselves a good one. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube.